Good evening and welcome to In Focus. I'm your host, Sharifa Medford-Gilkes, and it's great to have you with us once again. As we observe the month of the disabled, we're creating space tonight for a conversation that's honest, heartfelt, and very necessary. Our discussion is titled Same World, Different View, Living with Children with Disabilities. Behind every diagnosis is a child with dreams, personality, and potential. And behind that child is often a family navigating a world that doesn't always understand their journey. Tonight, we're talking about those real-life experiences, the challenges, the small victories, the support systems, and what inclusion should truly look like. Joining me are four voices who bring both professional expertise and lived experience to the table. Director of the Transformation and Empowerment Directorate of the Social Empowerment Agency, which includes the National Disabilities Unit, Wayne Nurse, representative of the Barbados Organization of Parents of the Disabled, Anne-Marie Johnson, parent Orlando Atherley, and parent Sharon Walker. And later, we'll be joined by special needs teacher Tania Belgrave. Welcome. Thank you. And to you, our audience, remember, this is your conversation too. We welcome your questions and comments, so feel free to drop them in the chat on our Facebook and YouTube live streams, and we'll bring as many as we can into the discussion. Now let's get into it. I'm going straight in with the parents. Sharon, good night, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
First, share your experience as a parent caring for a child with disabilities. I want to hear all about your son.
Well, first, it was amazing that I had a child. I had him at 40, and it was, I felt overjoyed and everything. But as time goes on, we started to notice some differences, you know, not meeting milestones and everything. And at first, the doctor thought he was deaf. We actually thought he was deaf because when you call his name, he wouldn't look, he wouldn't not focused at you and everything. So when we found out around the age of 3 that he was autistic and ADHD, the whole world, it stopped because you didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't know what it was, you know, what was this autism, what is it, you know, you didn't see in it, you know. And when I read up more about it, all I know about autism is what I read, you know, information on the internet and stuff and things, because it's not really, it wasn't around here, you know. About here, people was like, the child hard ears, the child want training and everything. They didn't go into it. So when he was, it was really difficult. It was difficult. And then after the first couple of years, I started to have to do it on my own. So I'm a single parent. My son is nonverbal. He's 11 now. And by the grace of God is why I'm here, by the grace of God, because it gets really hard. It is really hard. It's difficult having him out in public, having him out, you know, even at home, finding his space, being nonverbal, having him to be able to communicate to me and for me to understand his communication, what he wanted at the time and stuff, you know. I'm never gonna get, I'm wishing for 11 years now to hear the word mommy, but I have never gotten that. But he's loving, they're loving kids. They just need the understanding from us parents, from adults, from other children, from the stranger in the bus, in the supermarket and stuff. But the journey is forever. I'm not going to wake up tomorrow and say he's good talking, he can get a job. You know, most parents look for their kids, the fun time as they're young and growing up, but 18, get out the house now. It's time for you to leave, you know, get a job, get a girlfriend, you know, I'm not accepted. That is not in my, you know, crystal ball. That's not in my ball, you know. So I just cry every day. Every day I cry. Minutes a day and night, you know, when he throw tantrum and everything. Then I talk to God, then I take a little breather, and I go ahead again. And that's the cycle over every day, all day.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Orlando, share your story with us.
Haley, my daughter, she's 26 now. When she was born with congenital heart disease. In other words, she had 3 holes in her heart. She had her first surgery at 7 months. And she was 7 pounds because she had pulmonary hypertension, which means that in 7 months, if she didn't get the surgery, perhaps that would have been the end. You don't ever go expecting a special needs child. And I think that for me, that was the biggest fear I had when I found out. And because it wasn't like we had a social work or anything, the doctor just said, your child got Down syndrome, take her to the Belgrave Center to confirm. So it created this whole fear of me, right? I started reading every bit of information that I could have gotten. And when you looked around these, remember she's 26, and that time they really didn't have any real support services, right? So you had a case of the fear of your child will pass away. She's had 2 surgeries already. She now has to have another one at 26. You had this fear that your child will pass. Then you had the fear of, I don't know anything about this diagnosis. And then you looked around, you didn't have any real support systems. Thank God I've had a wonderful family, my mom, but it has been a challenge, you know. And that time when Haley was growing up, you take her out because people could see she has Downs, right? So you get these funny looks. When she didn't hit her milestones, you get these people take her to fear, take her to this place, people looking at you. So it's like, there was some rejection and you had to fight hard. I think for me as a dad, my still biggest fear is what will happen to her when I pass. Now I do have a family that supports her, do have a good support system, but I do understand from others. There's a point, I don't feel that now, but it is a challenge and it's still a challenge because at 26 I'm still facing a 3rd surgery, which I don't want her to go through because she had 2 already, but she needs to have it in order to survive.
Okay. What's a typical day like caring for your children? From waking up in the morning, taking them to school, or, you know, what's it like?
Well, with me, it's a workout in itself. To get my son up is a workout. To get him to eat breakfast is a workout. You know, because he wakes up this morning, he loves a hot dog, but then he doesn't want to eat it today. You know, he has this strange feeling, you know, if his sun's shining too bright, that offsets him. If he, you know, so, and then to get him in the bath is a workout, to get him out in the bath is another workout. Every time I try to dress him, put on the pants, he runs away, call him back, you know, so it's a big workout daily. Sometimes I say, okay, I'm going to get this done after he goes to school, but all I do when he leaves the school, I drop back down in the bed, go to sleep. By the time I catch myself, it's time to go back for him at the bus stop. So I think days when he's off, wakes up early, normal, you can get him up now when he's Saturday and Sunday, but he has to be in his comfort zone. It's no longer just giving him the tablet now. He's getting older and stuff, so he wants to do more. He wants to pull out this, he wants to, I know, and his attention span with autism, people don't understand, there's so much information going to their brain and they want to multitask. My son holds the tablet, he eats his food, he drinks, everything together. He wants to do everything together, so there's so much information going to their brain that they don't know what to cipher in. Okay, you know, so we have to, if I sit down with him to paint, he's then tired in 5 minutes, he wants to go do something else, and I have to, you know, to focus him back to this is what we're doing, you know, something. I have to, if he goes to sleep and he leaves one thing there, he's getting up and he's going straight for that. So it's a challenge every single moment.
Okay.
Well, given that, obviously, because of her condition, she has atrial fibrillation. It means that the diet is different. But the daily, I would say struggle, the daily challenge is that I found a place for her to, at 26-year-old, to be part of a special program in a place called BGIS. But that's in St. James, and I live in St. Philip. Wow. So every morning, every day, that is a trek from St. Philip to BGIS. And sometimes your employer don't necessarily understand, right? Because they say, well, you're taking so much time out of work. But she can't take a bus. No, I wouldn't allow the risk of her taking a bus because I've known the experience that she would face on a bus because she looks different.
Okay, understood. Oh, Anne-Marie, welcome. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. You're here with 2 hats tonight, basically. You're representing the OPD, as the name
Barbados Organization of Parents with Disabilities.
And you're also a parent of a child with a disability.
Yes, please.
So I want to ask you about your experience as a parent, but also about your organization and its work in assisting families and parents.
My experience as a parent has been very hard because I became a parent very young. And not knowing what to expect was the hardest thing, because he was diagnosed when he was 4. He doesn't even have his full diagnosis as yet. But it was very difficult, and I was 22. I wasn't accustomed to anything like that. I didn't even think of disability before having him. So finding out that he would have had a disability was hard for me in itself. I had to restructure my life. I then had to seek guidance, and that's when I became part of the organization, because then I would have reached out to Udeli Wickham, and she would have directed me then to the Barbados Organization for Parents of the Disabled. And it's there that I would have then gotten guidance and education on what I would have need to know as a person dealing with a child with special needs.
Okay, I see your organization does quite a lot of activities during the year. Share some of the programs and activities you all have.
So the organization focuses on doing workshops for the parents. We try to educate our parents, as we say, and we have guest speakers come in year-round sometimes, because we have annual meetings. We have meetings every second Saturday of the month at the Barbados Council for the Disabled. We get guest speakers come in to educate our parents on things that would be going on in the disabled community, how they could best navigate life with their children. Sometimes we do send them to workshops and seminars that they will get the education needed to cope with day-to-day things dealing with their children. We also have the annual summer camp for our children every year, as well as other children in the disabled community.
Okay. You find that these programs are working in helping persons to better cope and with their day-to-day caring for children with disabilities?
Yes, I do, because as I say, it's a hard task, and a lot of people do not know the necessary things they need to do as a parent of a child with special needs. And the support system is very strong. We all need our support systems. Some parents are alone, they're single parents, and they need guidance. So the organization has helped a lot of parents in terms of finding their way and helping them to cope with situations that they may arise at times.
Okay, when did you decide to become a part of the organization and not just be a parent, and just do your thing?
As I said, I was 22 when I had my son, so he was diagnosed when he was 5 with intractable epilepsy.
How old is he now?
He is 17 now, he'll be 18 this year. And I was kind of lost, because at 22 I still want to party. And here I am, taking on this whole situation. This child can't go to school like normal children. Even riding a bike was difficult for him. He would get a seizure on a bicycle. He couldn't be excited about anything at all. So I went to a couple of meetings, and I realized that, the parents there were very helpful. I have found my people. So it's not really just an organization, we're actually a family. We help each other get through situations. So that's why I decided to stay in the organization, because it felt like home.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nurse, good night.
Good night.
Welcome, thank you for being here as well. You're representing the Social Empowerment Agency tonight.
Yes.
Can you share with us some of the programs and policies that your organization has put in place to assist parents with children with disabilities?
Well, there are many, we have many programs, but for today I'm going to share some, because the ones that are geared towards children. For example, there's the financial assistance. Now this is a special needs grant administered by the National Insurance. And to qualify for this particular grant, there are 4 categories: persons with autism, persons with Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, and advanced multiple sclerosis. So they get, the children will get the half of what a person that would receive as a non-contributory pension. Then you have what we will consider the welfare grants, financial assistance. Well, I am saying the welfare, but on the sea, everybody is one. So they get assistance based on the severity of the disability. So those with severe disabilities will get more than those who with what would not be described as major disability. And then there's financial assistance in kind, and so on. Then there's educational assistance. Another area we help with is the accessibility program, which was from what we call the disabilities unit. Really, because there are children, many children, they need assistance with things like ramps, prosthesis. So we help persons in all areas, basically. Yeah.
We would have heard about the special needs trust framework in the budget just yesterday, and that's going to be in effect from April 1st. Can you share some more information about that?
Well, lots of persons with children with disabilities, they fear that at some point in time they will go and the children will be there and left. There will be no one to take care of them. But with this trust, they can put aside assets or funds that could be used by the children like when they are gone. And the good thing about it is that even though you put aside this money for them, it wouldn't be taxed. Or it wouldn't be taxed, you don't have to pay anything on it. And it would be there for the child in the eventuality of your death and so on. So I believe it is a good move by government.
Okay, what do you think about that? As parents hearing about these different forms of assistance?
Ladies first. Ladies first.
Yes, I think it is a very good initiative, and I think it helps, but sometimes in some areas is a dent, right? And I think that a little more can be done, but not just, the government can't do everything. They can't. But it is very limited, like me, I can't work. I can't work to go to where I have to be there 24/7 for my son. He's a 24-hour, he has to be monitored, everything. And there's not a lot of employers that's going to give you that time and energy. You spoke about the difficulty he had, coming to work. But I think that we need to come up with a little more ideas and, how to put it, as I said, there's so many things that my child needs: occupational therapy, speech therapy, all sorts of different therapies, and those are like, the cost of those is like $150 an hour, right? And then sometimes you have to do it twice a week or 3 times a week. I was not fortunate for that, not having to work and depending upon welfare or depending upon the trust. I've had times my light was off, my water was off, because I have to make sure that my son has these necessary things that he has to go to and has to go to school, or even if home is sick. And these children are prone to get sick very easily too. So majority of the time when you have a school term, half, maybe a quarter of that school term, he's at home. So that's another reason why I can't work and stuff. But as I say, that the government is working towards things, but I think that they need to interact more with the parents, not just coming up with these ideas and say, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and think. I need to have a group to go out there and find out what is the real issue. Respite care is another issue that we need. Parents need a break. I don't have the support system like other people will have, the family, and I don't have that support system. I got family and call and say, okay, how is Tyler doing today? He's fine, but nobody's going to say, okay, I come in for him for an hour, come in for him for a day and stuff. So things like that, I think the money needs to be allocated to certain areas stuff, not just given that, because I know there's so many you can't ask for everything, but I think it's a little more working with the parents and working with these organizations to really find out what we really need, because it's okay to say you can give them this money and stuff, right? But what about the next day and the next thing and the next, So that's my take on it.
Before you get your feedback, Orlando, we have a comment coming in from the audience. This is from Faith Chukwuka, 5436. You don't get to relax, and then when they go to school, you just want to crash out. Can't help themselves, so you constantly have to think for 2 people. I think that's basically what you were expressing earlier about when Tyler goes to school, then you just crash out.
There's nothing you can do. You're able to do. You feel really fatigued and stuff, because
so now you're not alone in this.
Yes.
Definitely not. Orlando, can you share your feelings about the government?
I think it's a good thing. Obviously, it depends on. I haven't looked at it. I heard about it yesterday, and if it is what I'm thinking it is, you should be able to put assets in the trust for your kids. But here I am again. Daughter is 26, and I'm going to be facing what I'm hearing preliminary is another potentially $80,000 US for a 3rd surgery, right? So yeah, I think it's a good thing. I do have a good support system. I just need to understand the mechanics. But if I can add to what Sharon is saying, and this is, I've been around the disabled movement. I was at on the council at one point in time. I was with Walpole at one point in time. And sometimes people don't listen. Policymakers don't understand what parents face. I mean, my experience is slightly different because I had good support, right? But I do recall, and to her point, when my daughter attended Bertie Graham, there was one speech therapist. Yeah. I still think there's one speech therapist. But what has been happening is that you were having more kids coming through the system now because on the medical side it was a lot better. But then the challenge you were facing is that you were sitting on the waiting list for about 2 to 3 years. So in order to make sure I got the best for Haley, what I ended up having to do was pay a speech therapist. I could have done that, right? In addition to the one visit she was getting. The other stuff, then I had to work on my own, her fine motor skills, her gross motor skills, in order to get her to a point where she could attend school. So.
Okay. Marie, how do you feel about it? Not only as a parent, but also as a representative of an organization.
I think the government is moving in the right way, but I also think that more can be done. And as he said, speech therapy and occupational therapy, the waiting list on the government waiting list is very long. Sometimes you wait a whole year for an appointment. And the reality of it, some people will not be able to pay for a private speech therapist or occupational therapist. So I believe that more can be done. They're moving in the right way though and considering what is best for the children, but they can also have discussions with organizations and some of the parents to get more feedback on what is the right thing to do for us.
Okay, thank you. We have a question coming in. This one is for you, Wayne. This is from Armed Aline 8850. When will the government expand the categories of persons with disabilities to get the grant from NIS?
What I can say is that government is looking into expanding the grant because it's recognized that there are many persons with disabilities who would also need the grant, but because there are no definite, you don't know definitely what the situation is. But they're looking into expanding the actual benefits that persons get who have disabilities. Because as I said, it is known that there are many disabilities that you do not have a definite, you don't know exactly what it is. So to actually give to what you don't know what it is, a diagnosis is necessary. But there are some that we actively looking to start giving as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, we have some parents out here who may be experiencing their child not reaching the milestones that you would have mentioned earlier. And while you would have noticed them and you would have sought the assistance, there's some persons who may not even know where to start. Giving them some advice, help them, guide them. Anne-Marie, let me start with Anne-Marie as she's from the organization.
First thing first, we normally tell parents to visit the unit and gather information from there. Some people are fortunate enough for their children to be in school, and teachers will pick up some things and they will direct them on the necessary people to call. You can also go to the Children Development Center, or you can go to your pediatric doctor and ask for an evaluation for your child if you realize that something is wrong. But the first thing we must do is realize that there is something that needs to be paid attention to. So there are organizations out there that help with children getting the right diagnosis and everything, but you just have to know what you're looking for. So if you see your child acting, not reaching their milestones, as she would have said, she realized it, and she sought help for her son. So you go to your pediatric doctor and you ask, well, my son is not reaching milestone, my daughter is not reaching milestone, can you do evaluation and tell me what's wrong? And from then, you most likely will get a letter to go to the Children Development Center where the child will get evaluation there and be diagnosed, and they'll go from there.
Does the ministry offer assistance in this regard as well, for persons who are basically lost in where they should go to get help or get answers to unanswered questions?
Yeah, the social workers would tend to always guide persons into where they should go to get the assistance, in most cases.
Okay. For you, what was that experience like? the process of finding out what was happening?
The process was, I was very fortunate at the time because I was working in the field, media field, and I met some people from Sunshine and stuff in there. So my son used to be with me in the car because I had to travel with him and stuff, and I got recommended to the people and stuff, so I saw it very early. But the difficulty came with at the CM Graham, which is formerly known as the Children Development Center. I was on the waiting list for 7 years. So by the time Tyler got to see a speech therapist, it was no longer useful. You know, he was just, didn't want to be there, you know, just the thing. So they got fed up, and at the time, I think he saw in that short space of time after 7 years when he was 8, he saw about 3 different therapists that they changed, right? I think, remember, with these children too, change is a big thing. If they come and see you one day, and 2 days, 3 days, they want to expect to see you next week and stuff, so change is a thing. But I think there's many things you can look for. My son wasn't reacting to his name. He wasn't looking persons in their face. He didn't want nobody to touch him. He was always in a corner. I would take him as a baby, as a child, young child, I used to take him to parties, and I'm looking for my son, and as soon as he would be in the jumping tank by himself, and then as soon as a lot of kids came, he came out and were in a corner or wanted to pull me to go to the car or something like that. So look out for these changes in your child. You know, you as a parent, and even if you're a first-time parent, you have that initiative, you have that sense that you can tell that something is wrong. And if you, the slightest bit, if you think is wrong, just go and get it checked out, or as organizations that they have. I think it's gotten better since I had Tyler 11 years ago. More awareness is out there. People are stepping up and saying, okay, this is something that we can think about doing. I think, and it's getting a lot better than it was before 11 years ago.
Okay.
I think if you can connect with people early, parents who've had kids with Down syndrome, there's a Down Syndrome Association that you can do that. My experience is early on somebody connected us with a wonderful couple who'd had a child with Downs, and arm yourself with a lot of information about Down syndrome, about these milestones. Key to all of that, and my own experience, is early intervention. Yeah. And as Ting said, that's the part that pains me about the whole disability thing. What parents need and what government and other people perceive that you need is not the reality, because if you don't get early intervention, see our experience, my experience, we got early intervention. I armed myself, got the speech therapist. In addition, she went to, worked on her fine motor skills, and you have to get in there, because obviously the reality is that you're going to be stigmatized. Most people do, especially if your child acts differently than the normal child, you're going to be stigmatized. So for us, it was getting there early. If you got a heart problem, get it fixed. That's also another challenge, but early intervention. By get information, work on the fine motor skills, work on the gross motor skills, work on the communication. And try as much as possible to make sure that you give your child as much as possible a normal life. One of the things that worked for me as a person, I remember when Haley got diagnosed, as I said, straight from the VNU. And while I was doing my research, I came across a story. I always tell people about it. It was the story about this dad. He was going to France, and the plane got diverted and ended up in Holland. And he said every day he complained about how wet it was, how the windmills, it was dreary. Until one day he sat there, he really looked at it, and then he realized, you know what, this place is a wonderful place. That's part of the biggest challenge you can have, that fear of what people will say, of you leaving your child, nobody is there for them, and you have to go through this whole long journey that you really don't, it's an unknown. And I had good support. I still got my fears. Right? And she's 26. The other challenge is that even though the system might help when you're a child, it is then finding some place when you're an adult. Again, I'd be fortunate because Haley went to the Learning Center. She went to wonderful nursery. Then she went to, I got a wonderful principal who accepted her at Hilda Scheme, just as they were about to start the special needs classes. Then when she finished, she went at the Learning Center. And then luck again is that they had this facility called BASE where they take the adults. So at least I'm comfortable that she has some place, but it's not available yet. We focus a lot on the children, but these children become adults.
Okay, thank you for that. Before we go to break, Anne-Marie, as we know, we have a lot of other parents out here who may have questions, who may have concerns, who may be shy, may be lost. How do we contact your organization to get some assistance for them, to point them in the right direction?
Okay, so the Barbados Organization for Parents of Disabled Children can be contacted at 437-5456, and you can ask for Patricia Palmer-Blackman. She is our president. She's also the president of Barbados Council of Disabled, so you can contact her and she will direct you.
Okay. Thanks for that. We're going to put all those contact numbers and links on the comment section for you to see later. But before we go, we have a comment for Anne-Marie from Sam Jones 01011. Thanks to BOPDC for providing that community our family that parents of children with disabilities need.
Thank you.
So yeah, thank you on their behalf. Okay, thanks for that. But we're going to take a short break right now. But when we come back, we'll continue the conversation. And don't forget, you too can be part of the discussion by leaving your questions and comments on our Facebook and YouTube live streams. Stay with us.
The line, stay inside and pay the easy way online with the Pace Digital mobile app. Now you can pay for your renewed license, police certificate of character, and more via the Easy Pay Plus platform with the Pace Digital mobile app. Log into Easy Pay Plus, select the service and confirm. Select the Pace Digital mobile app payment icon for your QR code. Open your Pace Digital mobile app and select the Pace Digital Pay tab. Scan the QR code and confirm your payment. Visit us online to learn more. Don't have the Pace Digital mobile app? Download it today.
The reason I joined the DEO is because I wanted to make a difference within my community and somewhat give back to this island, Barbados. Disaster management is a passion of mine, one of them, and I think that it is much needed. We look at disasters as hurricanes only. Well, a disaster is more than a hurricane. You know, we can have natural and man-made hazards which can incur flooding. We can have the hurricanes, and we can have accidents, oil spills, you name it. Anybody can volunteer, whether you be a first aider, a nurse, retired police, retired fireman, and just want to give back to your community.
When disaster strikes, DEO volunteers are the first help that may arrive in stricken communities. DEO volunteers can be the difference between total catastrophe and simple misfortune. Be the difference in your community. Join the DEO in your area today.
Attention citizens, if you notice any unusual insects or animals on imported fruits, vegetables or plants, do not turn a blind eye. These strange organisms may be invasive species, threats that can wreak havoc on our farms, ecosystems and jeopardize our local food supply. Early detection and swift reporting are our best defenses against the spread of potentially dangerous pests and diseases. Contact the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Nutritional Security at 535-5100. Email to hotline@agriculture.gov.bb or WhatsApp a picture to 832-2445. Protect our agriculture because a healthy Barbados begins with you.
Just a Conversation, the podcast where we discuss the topics that matter to you.
From real stories to real talk, we dive into everything. No filters, no fluff.
We're talking about the issues you actually care about. Finance, mental health, sports, entertainment, and so much more.
It's not just talk. It's conversations that bring us together, challenge us, and keep it real.
Don't have time to watch? No problem.
Just turn on the video while you're cooking and we'll keep you company.
Listen on your morning commute, while you work out at the gym, or even when you get home on evenings and chilling out.
Wherever you are, however you listen, this is your space for real conversations.
Join us.
Join us.
Just a conversation.
Available on all streaming platforms or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on social media at GIS Barbados to share your thoughts or to stay connected.
We're back here on In Focus. Tonight's topic, same world, different view, living with children with disabilities. Joining the panel now for this segment is special needs teacher Tania Belgrave. A warm welcome to you, Tania.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to throw the first question directly at you. What does inclusion look like in a school setting, not just in theory, but in practice?
Inclusion is a multifaceted something, which starts with policy. But what it also looks like in the classroom is having certain support systems within it. Because there's no inclusion without the input of the speech language therapist, the occupational therapist. Those people are very integral in helping integrate a student or a child with special needs into a classroom. And when I say classroom, I mean any kind of classroom, whether it is a specialized classroom or a normal classroom. What that means is that there has to be input from everybody along with the teacher in order to make certain decisions in setting targets and goals for the student. So it can't just be that you put a child with special needs in the classroom and say, okay, we can just adjust the work that we are giving them. So I give you one set of work and you another set of work because you're not doing the same test, but we are doing addition. What it looks like is this child may require an aid to help them read, or this child may require somebody to help regulate them and keep them grounded just to anchor them in order for them to do the work. So inclusion is very, very expansive. It is not just what people think it is.
On the topic of inclusion, do you think then that children with a disability or special needs should be in a separate school setting to regular school setting?
I think Sharifa trying to trick me up. But I would say to a certain extent, it depends on the student. Because when we're dealing with students with special needs, you have to look at the individual child. The individual child determines whether or not that child can function within a regular classroom or if they need specialized attention. Because I work at a school where we only deal with special needs children, children with different challenges, even in that, it is difficult because you have varying levels of disability, of cognition, of mental capacity. So it is it really isn't as black and white and cut and dry as people think it is.
Okay, not that I'm targeting you all the way, but next question for you. What is a day like for a teacher, a special needs teacher?
Intense, very intense. Like I said, in the classroom you have 2, 3, 4 groups of children, and you may have a child with cerebral palsy, then you have a child with Down syndrome, then you may have a child that has behavioral issues, you may have a child with ADHD, one with autism with ADHD, the different comorbidities that come with all of these things, and you have to manage a classroom of 15 to 20 children. I don't know what some of the bigger classrooms are like, but you have to manage that classroom in a way where you are giving sufficient attention to each child and helping each child reach whatever goal is set for them within the classroom. So it is very intense. Then there's dysregulation, there is coping abilities, there is special targets that a particular child may need. So it is intense.
Okay, yeah. Thanks for that. Before we go to the questions from the audience, Vian, I wanted to ask you, what is the ministry doing to help reduce stigma surrounding persons with disabilities?
Okay, we have a public education program where we try to pass out the message to persons in the wider community that persons with disabilities have special needs, and they are people like everyone else. And we try to educate them so that they can change their behaviors and their patterns. But what we also try to do is to highlight persons with disabilities that persons will recognize in the community, and so that persons can see that these persons have moved from one space to another upwards, even though they have a disability. Even if you look at persons like Carrie Ann Eiffel and Janelle Odell, who is now a senator, there are many examples. So we try to show persons that persons with disabilities are persons to be respected, and so on, and that they are people like everyone else, and they should be respected.
Thank you for that. We have our first question for this segment from Faith again. My question is to Mr. Nurse. Is there any after school care or respite care available for our children so we can get a break from constant daily care, so we can run errands, doctor's visits, etc. for ourselves?
What I would say is that at this point in time, at Sterling St. Philip, construction is ongoing for a residential facility where persons could be for the elderly and for children, and for children with disabilities. So persons who take care of the elderly and also persons with disabilities will have a chance, and let you say, to relax. You know, but this will take a while. It's probably in another few months that facility should be up and running. The first stage.
That sounds like a breather for you, isn't it?
Well, it can be a breather, but St. Philip has been Black Rock.
Understood.
You know, so I think that, I mean, it's not going to happen in one day and stuff, so I think they need to have more than one, because disabilities, especially autism, is on a rise. Right? So I think we're going to need more than one respite care, really, for this, because I live in Black Rock. I can't see the whole advice about looking for a break. I have to look for someone to carry me up St. Philip, to take him, and then to bring him, go back for him, or it depends on the situation, if I go visit or everything. So, I mean, it's a good idea, and if it comes true, it will be good, but I think we need to look for more than one respite care for that.
Okay, we have a next
question. Maybe something next door to my house or something.
That would be ideal.
Yes.
We have a next question. This one is from Cindy Blaze 307. Thank you, Cindy, for your question. The disability grant is a welcome addition. What does the educational assistance consist of?
Oh yeah, the educational assistance grant. That persons apply for this grant, and this is for persons not necessarily with disabilities. Children with or without disabilities, they go to what was the welfare department, but now is C, Social Empowerment Agency, and they make the application, and I can't remember the amounts now, but I think primary school was $350 and secondary was $500.
Okay,
per
thank you.
child.
Okay, we have another question. Dacia Moore, 8518. Where do you see the gap between policy and the actual lived reality of persons living with disabilities in Barbados? This is for the entire panel. Thank you very much, Dacia. Nobody don't want to start?
I can start. We had mentioned the question of disability education, and I find, this is my whole experience, that the disabilities that we tend to highlight when we talk about public education, we highlight visual impairment, we highlight wheelchairs, people not hearing. When it comes to the ones you can't see, the ones with the mental challenges, Downs, autism, they're not highlighted. So we still kind of in the dark. This is reality, right? So yeah, there is a big difference between policy of what we say we do. Yeah, we provide financial support, but is it enough? What parents really need is that early intervention. Yeah. That early intervention makes the huge difference in education. My daughter's experience with early intervention is that when she started Hilda's King, there was only 12 people in the class, right? Then she got pulled out, pay for a speech therapist to go to his school and communicate with teachers, well, look, when you're teaching, when you're doing reading in primary school, put her to the front of the class. Now every person can do it. But it started small. The special needs class started small. And yes, there was, you go over to normal class, because she ended up being a brownie and doing all the nice stuff. The challenge then is that when the class that exists, you start getting all types of, not disabilities, but you know, teacher probably want to deal with a child who gives, all of a sudden no, he has a disability. So gradually the special needs class grows without any support. So you're back to square one. My argument, my position, this is 20, as I was talking, this is 26 years old and we still have one speech therapist at the Children Development Center. So unless you got our early intervention, it's a challenge. And if you can't afford it, it's going to be a bigger challenge. So yeah, there's a huge difference between policy, which is addressing the financial position, but you want your child to aspire. And to aspire, you got to get that early intervention. I was fortunate that I was able to do it. And I had support systems that allowed me to do it. But that's the big challenge I found being around, having a daughter with a disability and being around people all these years. As an adult, there's hardly anything.
We actually have a comment coming in for you, Orlando, and this is from Stacey Atherley. Micah's Orlando Atherley. He is an amazing father to Haley. She is smart, funny, and very loving. She's a very smart, funny, and very loving young lady.
Oh, thanks, guys. Well, we tried. I tried from early on. By the time we got the diagnosis, I focused on making sure I gave her and treated her like any other child. I say that to any persons with a special needs. If you can get the intervention, treat your child like she's any normal child. Deal with the stares, deal with people when your child throwing a tantrum and you need to get on the floor with them, do that. Because any day that's your experience, right? And when people go on about their business, that's your experience. That's how you go live it. And you live with this constant fear. I used to have this fear that I can't die and leave my child. Until I met somebody who was then became a part of my life. And I don't have that fear, no. But for single parent, I do understand. And us men don't have a good track record of being good fathers to disabled kids. We don't. So that's why sometimes people say, oh, you're a good dad, you know. But we don't have a good track record. The first thing we do is run. And my child, I can't get a child like that, and we run.
Thank you for that, Stacey, and thank you for pulling at Orlando's heartstrings. We have another question coming in from Dacia. What advancements, technology, policy, social change have made the biggest positive difference in the disability community?
Well, I would say technology. They had a blind technology program. The persons who are blind and are not able to navigate. Well, this program was run by the same Kerry Eiffel that I mentioned just now. And she was able to allow persons to be able to use the internet and to use like screen readers and braille and so on to be able to communicate. Persons who were not able to do such before, but as a result of that blind technology program that we have running, persons were able to connect with persons that they would not have been able to before. So technology is definitely the advancement that we had seen in my section.
Okay, what about you, Tania, in schools?
Yeah, in the classroom as well, you would find that students are using technology to help them with writing their papers, and especially ones that are dyslexic. Once you introduce them to text to speech, or speech to text, that's what it is, right? Speech to text. They use it, but the thing is always to introduce them to it in a way where it presents safe and useful, and not to use the technology to fit in, because that's a challenge that we're having in the schools as well. Because the children know they are different, they're aware that they're different. And what happens is when they get the technology now to assist them with the things they need to do and their education, and they then tend to go off on YouTube and on social media, and they see behaviors that are seemingly acceptable, and then they want to mimic that behavior. And what that does then is cause even more maladaptive behaviors in the school for the ones that, because let's be real, the social economic demographic of a lot of our children with disabilities is one that is within the lower bracket. And because of that, we know the areas that they live in are areas where they will face ridicule, they will face some sort of peer pressure or whatever. And when that happens, they feel the need to fit. And in feeling the need to fit, they do whatever they see that makes them look cool. And that is something that we are seeing in our society that is becoming more and more prevalent. And if you really had a conversation with a couple of these children, you would realize, okay, you know, and it's not, we are quick to judge, you know, court of public opinion. He just disgusting. But that is his way of not standing out like a sore thumb in the society, because I present as a normal person or a normal child. However, I have all of these challenges where I don't want you to know, and I don't want you to know because I want a girlfriend, or I want to fit in with the boys, or I don't want nobody making sport at me or my mommy. So I do what is the easiest thing to do, and the easiest thing to do is get into stupid trouble, because that's what they're seeing, that's what is presenting. So technology is a catch-22. We use it in order for them to, you know, do the work. I have some in my class that know how to use ChatGPT better than me. But do I deter them from using the ChatGPT? No, because obviously if you have severe dyslexia, you have all the thoughts in your head. It is the transference from head to paper that is your issue. So when you are transferring from head to paper, and then the story twisting and turning, when you put it on there, it was straight. So if you can speak it into ChatGPT, or you can speak your prompt into ChatGPT of what you want your story to be like, because we're using it in our storytelling, our story writing, then obviously I know, well, you admit, Auntie Tania used ChatGPT, cool. So what was your prompt? So then the assessment is still the same. However, I have to look at it, I have to modify the way I look at it in what is the assessment I want is what they did using the technology. So, and that's effort, and that's a lot of work. And when you have to manage in a classroom different personalities, different behaviors, different levels of learning, as a 1 or 2 teacher in a classroom, it becomes a lot. So, yeah.
Thanks for that. We have another question from Brittany Taylor, 6333. Is there any labor law that can assist a parent who has proof that their child has challenges? I'm assuming this is referring to what Orlando would have mentioned earlier about work, having challenges with, trying to care for your daughter and still get to work on time and whatever. I'm sure Mr. Nurse can touch on this.
Well, I have to see the question again though. But what's your proof? Well, in the Act that we have, the Disability Act, when persons will be, persons with disabilities, a percentage of them will be guaranteed work. And the question was if the person is able to work, right? If they're able to work, then they could be guaranteed work, but what's is work?
Oh, I think they were more referring to the parents. The parents. Yeah. The parents have to care for the children then, and making sure, and protecting them in the employment.
I can't remember what the question was saying.
Right, he was asking if there's any labor laws protecting the parents.
No, that's right, I know.
Oh, okay. But then that's something we probably have to suggest.
As I said, I had an employee once, my son was sick and I was supposed to go because being a single parent to call me, and the boss simply told me if I leave, don't come back. Just like that. So you don't get an employee that's going to feel, very few. I speak to some parents and we have a support group, and they say, well, they have a good employer who allows them, if they have to go to doctor's appointments and everything. So, but you still want your job, you got to look at it, boss and employer, you still want your work done, right? He has a right to want his work done, but I have a right to be there for my child as a single parent. So that's something that we have to look at. I personally think that the government should hire some of us because we are living it, and we know some of the people that in these must say, I'm sorry, they don't have empathy to the situation and know the situation because they're not living it. That's right. They're not living it. So I think you should talk to the government and tell them that some of us need some jobs.
Well, that was a good plug, Sharon.
Yes.
We have another question coming in. This is once again from Dacia. What's a conversation about disability you wish more people were willing to have? Let's start with the parents.
I think is understanding the reality of parents. I think sometimes with foreign policy we paint pictures, but the reality compared to the picture that you paint or that is painted, and your everyday reality is fundamentally different. I think keep saying it, and I think she's right. If in some government departments they would employ parents of kids with disability, then they would understand the reality of, what parents face. Post your child finishing school, finding a job for them, finding a job that that is acceptable, and then having to deal with protection, right? Protecting them from what is going on in this society, right? You will not be surprised that I know where my daughter works. They've had an experience where one of the girls going to the bus stop, somebody wanted to pick her up, interfere with her. So that's the reality, and she has autism. Fine, she looks fine, but she has autism. That's one of my fears, and that's why I make sure I take my daughter to work and pick her up. My reality is if I take too much time, I put it back in on weekends. So you still ain't got your own. So it is a challenge because Ting is right.
Sharon
is right. You still have an obligation to your work. You can't expect your employer to let you take in my case amongst almost 2 days. Because by the time I leave work and I go pick her up, traffic, it's crazy. I come here from Lancaster. I end up taking 2 hours, 3 hours a day if I have to go for her. So you see how that amount of times, and then you still got work. So you spend the weekend, then you should be out, then you should be enjoying. You're spending the weekend because you have a responsibility. So.
Okay. I personally also think that more acceptance in the workplaces, and bring out there and advocate more. I think they need to know, because like me I took my son to the bank one day to change a check, and I explained to the guard and I explained my son with closed spaces and everything, how he is. I'm not asking you to put me in front of people, but at least speak to somebody who can just deal with me so I can get in and get out, because spaces, you know, they're not in their element. And he totally ignored me. So my son was running up and down, this pulling this down. And I let him do it. I let him do it until somebody really noticed, okay, we need to get this lady out of here and stuff. So as I said, some people, I think we need to let some of our parents or the teachers or somebody go in and have some discussion with workers like banks, supermarket. I explained in the supermarket that I have to put my son in the trolley, even as big as he is, because he will pull down things and he will want this and he will pull that and thing. And the guard said I needed to take him out. If I can't take him out, I need to leave the store because he's too big for the trolley. So I think that acceptance is what we really need in this whole thing, because people still don't understand. I think, as I said, don't get me wrong, they're getting better. They are getting better. I see people, I go to places now and they realize it, the doctor's appointment. You know, because my son is one of the people like, if he accustomed going to his doctor's appointment and that's the doctor's room there, when he gets there, he wants to go straight to the doctor's room. And I have to explain to him, like, you're not the only person here to see the doctor, you know. And then sometimes when it gets really overbearing, because places like the Children Development Center, although they know that they're dealing with special needs kids, it's still a long wait. It is still, I ended up having a 9 o'clock appointment and not seeing the doctor till sometimes after 2, 3. And that time your child is drained. There's only one doctor.
Tania, as a teacher, what is one of the conversations you think that people should be having?
Similar to what the parents would have said, is a matter of empathy and a matter of seeing, right? Because what happens is a lot of parents keep their children home, or they stay home, or they have to wait until somebody is able to keep the child, which then doesn't give people the true vision of what it is. So I think when people see it, they understand it. Yes, it would come with all the ridicule and the filming and everything else that people do when they don't understand. However, I think for things to be known, you have to put it out there. So conversations like these need to be more regular. You know, you need to see a person and ask a question. But the problem is that the way society is set up now, everybody is so guarded because of all of the judgment that comes just from looking. And then social media and all the sharing and all of the people and their own interpretation of what is happening. So I think that just platforms, education, being out there, because we have so many societies that people are unaware of. And people with children with needs and disabilities are not always aware of, because they're not always out there and being pushed for people to know that they exist and to see them. As a teacher, well, we got to try our best. Because and that's a societal thing. It is the parents, the teachers, the one doctor, the 2 speech therapists. You know, we need more people in these areas speaking, becoming, and working together.
That's a good answer. Thank you for that, Tania. We have one last question for Mr. Nurse. This is from Gemma. Mr. Nurse, is there any school apart from the Children's School that handles children with the feeding tube?
The one there in, what's called it? In St. George. It is a special needs place.
There's a private institution.
Yeah, the private. Just can't remember the name right now, but it's in St. George.
Okay.
Thelma Vaughan.
Well, sorry, we couldn't help you with the name, Gemma. Is it Thelma Vaughan? Yeah. Okay, Thelma Vaughan School. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're coming to the end of the program, but I would like to have the parents basically share some advice for other parents out here who may be struggling? Charmaine, you would have mentioned that you cry daily, but I know that having your son in your life is a joy.
Yes,
so
it is.
give me some
Very
takeaway
much.
points for some other parents out here who may be struggling, who may not have gone and gotten the diagnosis as yet, who may be worried, who may be scared.
Yeah. We gotta realize it is a serious thing, right? And it spreads out more than just being a single parent and everything. Even two-parent household, having a child with special needs and severe special needs too, it takes a toll on your relationship. It takes a toll on marriages, you know, the different parenting and everything. So it's not only just me because I'm special need, I'm single parent, that I'm gonna say, okay, it's harder than me and stuff. Because I know it has to be, even though my situation is bad, they have much worse situations than me. But my thing is getting the knowledge of what you can, trust in God. Because somebody once told me that God did not give me Tyler to be a burden. He gave me as a blessing because he know that I'm a strong soldier, and I keep continuing. I mean, it's easier said than done. People tell me, "Oh, Sharon, you're so strong. Sharon, you're so strong. You know, you can handle this and stuff." But it gets hard. Cry if you have to cry. You know, sometimes I don't even talk to family. I go to a stranger and I talk to them because you just want somebody to listen. You don't want somebody to judge you and everything. I've had so much different thoughts. I've been through a tough period where I had happiness, sadness, suicidal, despair, because my biggest fear, I'm 51 now. My biggest fear is leaving my son. Who's going to take care of him? That's my biggest fear. That I even had, I'm sorry to say, but I had these thoughts that if I go, I want him to go with me too. Because I feel better. Because nobody's going to love your child like you. You can have a boyfriend, you can have this, you know. Nobody's going to love. Even sometimes the parents don't even love the children how they're supposed to. But me, I know he's been a joy in my life. He taught me how to be more patient. He's taught me how to love more, guidance. He has taught me so much that I didn't have it as a young person coming up, you know, just want party and everything. I've seen it and done it all. And this is my last thing I have to do on earth. This is what I'm planning to do. I put in the work and I plan to be here forever. Unless, you know, I can't guarantee that I can be there for the rest of his life, but as long as the rest of my life, I'm going to be there for him. So I just tell the parents that to love your child, to don't be ashamed to talk to somebody. Don't cry if you have to, as I said, but importantly, talk to God. Talk to God. He gives you the strength at the end of the day. And sometimes when I get my bad news, my son comes and he holds up my head. He understands. He comes and holds up my head and gives me a kiss and everything, and that brings me back up. You know, I look forward for that.
Orlando.
No, listen, I think Sharifa is kind of summed it up, you know. Love your child. Haley taught me patience, right? Observing and seeing her milestones, some she got faster than others. But love your child. Nobody will. Forget people that stare. I mean, they will stare anyway. You can't do nothing about that. But just love your child and fight as much as possible to get the help early. Talk to people. Early on, I was connected with the person who had a Down syndrome child, and her daughter was about 3 years. So I had some experience, some knowledge for her to share. So yeah, get in touch with the organizations that are out there, whether it's autistic, whether it's Downs, whether it's Parent Association, but get as much information. And it is not a death sentence. No. It is not. Enjoy your child. I love my daughter. I don't know what I'll do without her, but I love her. She's been the apple of my eye, and I've done the best for her, and I've seen her do fantastic things. Okay. Haley danced twice with Dance Tries as a lead dancer. And that's because we got in there early intervention, regardless of the diagnosis, getting there with the early intervention. But I know it's a challenge, but I had good support.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Tania, as a teacher, what is some advice you have for parents, and particularly mention the importance of communication between not only parents, but parents and teachers, the governmental organizations, and the associations that exist?
Yeah. I always tell parents, set realistic goals. This is from a teacher standpoint. Set realistic goals. We have parents that are still hopeful, you know, and I guess that comes probably again, with the pressures of society, not understanding the challenges that their children are facing, and some of them don't have realistic goals, or they may be, as was said, the child may reach certain milestones faster, so they expect that because they reach that milestone, they're able to reach every milestone, which is not necessarily the case. So it's to live in reality, accept the reality, then put the things in place so that then when they come to the classroom and the teacher has the conversation with the parent, you are not telling me that you want your son to sit CXC math, because that is not the reality. The reality is maybe that you want that he is able to function mathematically. That we can do. But if you tell me that you want him to sit CXC math, I can tell you, no.
Not possible.
No, I ain't gonna tell nobody it's not possible. I ain't God. But what I will say is that is not the reality right now. That is not the reality. So set realistic goals. Have conversations with teachers. Have conversations with people that can help you within the community. Have conversations with other parents. Because sometimes we find that sometimes parents live within a bubble and they feel like it's only them facing this challenge. But when you have a community, it makes it a lot easier because information is disseminated, and that community can come together and say, hey, you know what? Well, I noticed this in my son or my daughter too, and you know, this is probably something we should talk to the teacher about. Because again, if a teacher got 15 children in front of them and those 15 children are so different, at some point in time, something will be missed. If the teacher sends home, I don't send home homework, but if I send home something for the children to do, I always include the parents. I know my parents sick of me by now, but the parents are included because it helps them as well to see, gauge, and understand where your child is in the classroom and their learning.
Thanks for that. Wayne, your final comments?
Well, what I would say is that it was an interesting conversation. It's always good to have parents with persons with disabilities, let the public know some of the problems that they go through, and the teachers who have to also deal with the parents. But then, I mean, with the children.
Parents too.
Right. But we also need to also recognize that government has done a lot in returning the social services to make sure that they provide for same persons with disabilities, where we have the disability unit, but we have C now. Then we have each organization, and we have the Council for the Disabled. We have so many organizations looking after persons with disabilities, and the advice was shared earlier that persons with children with disabilities should try to link with the disability that the child has, the organizations, because then you get to learn a lot more and so on. What you can do is to visit the social services and see what are the services that will be specialized for your particular child, and things could work from there.
Okay, thank you for the... Pardon?
Can I put in a shameless plug?
It was that.
Rock Your Socks is coming up this weekend.
Yes. That is always a day that we look forward to. I'm hoping that people understand the significance of it.
Yes.
Not just to wear the socks, but you know, it's an important date for persons with Down syndrome. Yes. Okay, so tonight's conversation really reminded us that while we may all share the same world, our experience within it can be very different. And understanding those differences is where real change begins. As we mark the month of the disabled, it's a good time for all of us to reflect on how we show support, how we create space, and how we help build a society where every child and every family feels seen, supported, and included. A special thank you to our panelists, and a big thanks to you, our viewers, for your comments, your questions, and for simply being part of the conversation. Be sure to follow the Barbados Government Information Service on Facebook and Instagram, and BGIS Conversations on Instagram, so you never miss another In Focus discussion. And check out our comment section for contact details for all the relevant agencies that can assist with any further questions or concerns. Until next time, I'm Sharifa Medford-Gilkes. Have a good night.